Now that brings us to just a couple of more slides that I have before I turn the podium over to Cheryl, and that is the current situation in China. Runaway debt growth in China is at alarming levels. Here you see the history back to '97. What we've suggested is that a growth rate of 20% or more in a 5-year period is one that should bring concern. The growth rate in China, and by the way, the numbers are a little fuzzy and you get slightly contradictory numbers from different sources, but no matter which ones you rely on, you're looking at growth rates that's in excess of 40 to 50%. Now, where does this show up? I think probably everybody in this room has read a lot about the problems in China associated with overcapacity. There are many cities that they are referring to as ghost cities that are virtually empty cities of gleaming new buildings. We also see a lot of reports about excess capacity in manufacturing. It's capacity that's being added to keep the Chinese economy growing that is not justified by demand and is resulting in increased levels of overcapacity. So what is our view of what's going to happen in China? Well, we think a crisis is possible in 2 to 3 years. Now, the mitigants are very important to focus on. China has only about 32% central government debt to GDP. Now, that's low by world standards. Ours is about 100%. Japan's is about 200%. So they have lots of additional borrowing capacity. They are also, through the PBOC and other places, holders of vast financial assets. In both cases, the capacity is, we estimate, easily equal to 20 to 30% of GDP. So China does have capacity to deal with this problem. But even if a crisis is avoided, China has significant and increasing levels of overcapacity. Now here's a little paradox for you. You know, China released its GDP number here like less than a week ago, and it was 7.5%. And everybody was relieved. Oh my goodness, that's great news. They're still growing at 7.5%. We don't need to worry. GDP growth is more a measure of the capacity being added than it is a measure of the capacity that's needed. So at a 7.5% growth number in China's economy is just evidence that the problem is compounding. China needs to pull back on their growth rates just to absorb the excess capacity they already have. We believe China's situation may be very similar to the one that we have seen in Japan. Japan had this exact situation, rapid run-up in private debt leading to '91, and 23 to 24 years of sideways growth in the period after that. You can see something like that being the case for China once they come to grips with their problem. Our view is what they will do and what they should do is act preemptively. I mean, you know, it's a situation unlike the United States where the government, in effect, owns the banks. So their mandate for keeping those banks alive is different and frankly more compelling than it was in the United States. It's hard to see them not acting. But what they need to do is go in and preemptively recapitalize the banks, so that those banks can in turn go and renegotiate with commercial borrowers. China has about $14 trillion in commercial loans. We estimate that easily $1 to $2 trillion of that is bad loans. It may be quite a bit higher than that. They have the capacity to preemptively deal with that. But once they do that, they're going to be faced with this decelerating growth scenario, and they're going to have the unemployment problems that they've been trying to outrun all along. And that's where they probably have to look at expanded safety net programs to deal with the social ramifications of slower growth. We think in aggregate the cost to the Chinese economy could be 20 to 40% of GDP. So with that, I'll turn it over to Cheryl.
Properly Thank you very much.
Thank
Good to
you.
see you. I have to have the commas. I'm the punctuation point between speakers. So thank you very much, Richard. I just want to underscore how unusual it is to have a person that was responsible for so much building of debt in America talk about there being too much. And I just wanted to say that, Byron, your jaw might have dropped had you heard that testimony in the Senate. I want to thank Charles Schweninger for offering some commentary. I want to recognize Michael Lind, who's been his partner here at the Economic Growth Program. Both of them have worked together on aspects of this. But Cheryl, I'm looking forward to you to tearing up the book. Charles Schweninger.
Thank you, Steve, and thank you, Richard. We've been working alongside with Richard for the past few months and have issued several reports. The title of one is on the slide here, America's Debt Problem.